Hello everyone and welcome to the Game Design Archive with Edward and Ludwig.
Hello.
Hello. Today we are gonna talk about why we think people need to look at the big picture more.
Yes.
Very strange way to say it, maybe we'll see.
No. So, what do we mean with the bigger picture? Do we mean society? Do we mean movies? No, we mean games, of course.
Video games are the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, this is one of my biggest gripes, and you probably agree with this, with like modern game design. I know you hate when I say that, but I love saying it, so I'm gonna say it anyways. But basically, I feel like a lot of game design discussion nowadays are way too focused on like small details and like individual mechanics, and they never like actually step back to look at the bigger picture. And so I actually have an example game here to sort of explain what I mean, which we have mentioned before. I think you mentioned it in an episode a few episodes ago, and that's Total War.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Total War games, for those of you that don't know, they're sort of a genre blend, I guess, but basically it's a turn-based like kingdom management strategy game or whatever, combined with real-time battles. So you'll have like, I don't know, if you play Total War Rome or whatever, you'll be like the center of Rome and you'll move your armies around. And then when your army engages with an enemy army, you go into like an actual real-time battle where you control the units and stuff like that. Now, you mentioned on that episode, I don't remember which one it was, that like there's a very big problem with that. And that's that the real-time battles actively clash with the like strategic kingdom management stuff.
Yes.
So like, for example, if you are very good at the battles, that means that you don't really need to be good at the kingdom management stuff, because you can kind of get around that. And so you don't really need to care about it that much. But then it's also the other way around, right? So like, if you're very good at the kingdom management stuff, or you put a lot of effort into it or whatever, then the battles become super easy and you're just like auto-resolving everything.
Yeah.
And usually that's what happens, late game in a Total War game, is you just run around auto-resolving everything. And then it's like, then there's no point in having the battles even. And I feel like a lot of people get triggered when you mention that, like that Total War doesn't really work.
I think people like to be triggered in general, so don't think too much about it.
Yeah. I mean, even I am triggered by Total War, I guess, so I shouldn't be a hypocrite here. But yeah, so like, this is what I mean by the bigger picture, right? So people are seeing the individual mechanics. They are seeing like, oh yeah, there's this really epic game where you can rule a kingdom and you can be the general and it's super epic and cool, but they never step back to like look at the implications of that.
Yeah.
Like they don't see the consequences of combining those two gameplays. And there's actually a very good example which proves that I'm right, which is another game that's called, I don't remember the full name, but it's called something Mark of Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just Warhammer Mark of Chaos?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah. Now that's like licensed Warhammer game from like 2006 maybe, I don't know. Somewhere early 2000s. Yeah. And basically that game has Total War like RTS combat with like big units and whatever, without the kingdom management stuff. And while I wouldn't say that Mark of Chaos is like a great game, like it isn't a must play, I actually replayed it like a year ago or so, and I was like moderately surprised by like how playable it was. Like it wasn't super boring, it wasn't like super interesting, but it wasn't super boring either, which I think Total War games are. And I find that that's a very good example, because it's very obvious that by focusing on only the battles, the battles are so much more interesting. Because like that's sort of the problem in Total War, that the battles aren't really interesting, I guess.
I think you could, like, I'm gonna defend Total War for like 5 seconds here. I think you could make a good version of Total War if you, first of all, auto-resolve should not be a thing, I think, because it must be compelling to do the combat. And then you need to like figure out what to shave off or keep in terms of what part.
Yeah.
So like you could make it sort of an hybrid, right? But not.
Mm-hmm.
In
I
the
think
way
the
it is.
problem with like shaving off auto resolve is that after a while you'll have like so many super easy battles. Now obviously that's
Yeah, and
solvable by
that's
just
the thing
making
they need
sure.
to fix. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. They need to they need to remove auto resolve and make sure you don't have to do small battles somehow, right? I'm not saying it's easy.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point because I've played most of the Total, not the recent ones, but like up until like 2020 or whatever, I played most of the Total War games, and the most interesting Total War game in my opinion is Three Kingdoms, and the reason for that is that they have like the deepest hero system. So there's like this big discussion in the Total War community about like, historical Total War or fantasy Total War, and like people are fighting and whatever about which one you should do. And like, to me it's very obvious that fantasy Total War is way more interesting, because like historical Total War just ends up being you have a line of infantry, then you wait for them to charge you, and then you charge them with the horses in the back, and that's the strategy that works every time. But the thing with fantasy Total War, and like Three Kingdoms in specific, is that you have these heroes that level up, and so if you have an easy battle, for example, you can like kind of use that battle to farm your hero. So like if you're like playing with your hero well and like positioning him well and like making sure that he gets the most kills and so on, he will level up more than if he doesn't. And so there's like at least a bit of depth there compared to like easy battles in the normal Total War games. But I would say Three Kingdoms, like while Three Kingdoms is the best, it still suffers from that Total War problem where after a while the battles become too easy and you're just auto-resolving everything. Yeah. I don't know, do you have any thoughts on Total War, Edward?
Yeah, so personally I'm not a big fan of Total War, but I think it could work if you did it. So like if you go back and look at like the early ones, it's like, okay, good, cool, this is a good starting point. How do we make this more like, how do we make the combat not more interesting, because it's sort of interesting, but like how do we make sure that there is less of the pointless combat, because auto resolve obviously doesn't work. That's a stupid solution. So how do we fix it, right? And I'm not saying I have that solution, right, but I obviously think it seems like people kind of like it, right, and they have something there, and they should go for it, right? They shouldn't just give up on the concept, but they're definitely not trying to solve it. That's my point, right? Yeah,
I think something like Mark of Chaos is way better there, because like it doesn't have the like kingdom management stuff, but it does have sort of a campaign, so it's kind of like a roguelike, right? So you have a map where you go from battle to battle, and then you can like recruit troops and upgrade troops along the way, and so you still have a lot of that, but the battles are like scripted, so it's not like I invade Greece and then I meet a few like tiny Greek armies and I crush them and it's super easy. It's like mission 1 is kind of easy, and then mission 2 is a bit harder, and so on and so on. So like it's very linear in that way, which I think that's probably like the biggest problem with Total War games. I think especially because like sort of, I guess this is what we've been saying already, but like to reiterate the point, it's like the battles become easier with time, and like that's sort of the problem, I guess. Because like playing the first 3 turns or whatever in Total War, that's like reasonably fun, but like after that it gets very boring very fast. And so like doing I agree with you, like doing something there would be interesting, but like as you said, the Total War devs, they've just been making the same game since Total War Shogun, and so like there's nothing happening there at all, with the exception of maybe like adding the characters that are a bit more heroes, but Now, perhaps moving on from Total War,
Mhm.
unless you wanted to say something more.
No, I don't.
There was something we discussed. I think it was last episode. I'm not sure. Which is something we've discussed several times because we always discuss the same things because
We're not
we always
original
complain
at
the
all.
same.
We're just
Yeah, exactly. And that's frustration. Maybe we discussed that in a CS episode. Whatever. So like, a lot of game designers talk about, eliminating frustration or, any sort of bad word like, the confusion or annoying stuff or whatever. But like, let's look at frustration in particular. And so, they say that frustration is bad. It's frustrating to be frustrated,
yes.
and so we should remove all the frustrating mechanics from the game. Now, the problem with that is that a lot of times, what is frustrating in the moment is actually like good and interesting long term, and so this goes back to like. The whole looking at the bigger picture. It's like a lot of designers look at the frustrating moment. So like, let's say you have an enemy that has an unreactable attack, because I love unreactable attacks. And a designer will say, oh well, it's frustrating that the enemy makes an attack that you can't dodge. And like, sure, it's true. It's like, it's frustrating in that moment to be like, oh fuck, I couldn't do anything about that attack and now I just took damage. Wow, that's so BS or whatever. But the problem is that when you look at the bigger picture, you'll see that, okay, but an unreactable attack like enforces, how do you say this? Like good fundamentals.
Yeah.
It's like, if the enemy, for example, has an unreactable attack that he does whenever I get close to him, then that means that the strategy to beat him is to stay far away from him, for example. And so there's something interesting there, right? Because suddenly there's strategy in beating this guy. I can't just walk into him and then dodge the attack instantly when he does it.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of designers don't see this because they look at the frustrating moment and they say, okay, let's eliminate that. And they never take this step back to like look and see how that changes the game.
I would go even more philosophical for a moment here. And I don't think this... like if you take this what do you call it, like comparison or whatever further, right? So the argument you hear a lot of the time is that you want to maximize fun, right? Or whatever, right? You know what I mean. They maximize retention and stuff as well, right? So it's not just fun, but let's say then if you take that argument to the limit or whatever in life in general, for me at least, what would I end up doing all day if I just maximize for like minimum friction, maximum enjoyment? I would sit in my chair all day, eating chips and ice cream and watching pointless shows, right? And guess what? I would feel fucking terrible.
Yeah.
So you can't maximize in one direction like that, if that makes sense. Like it's in a way less extreme maybe in a game than in reality, but it's still the same thing. Like you can't just, if I just make it fun all the time, it's gonna be great. No, it's not how you make something interesting. It can't just be maximized in one axis.
I mean, to like extend your real life example a bit, if I go for a run, I'm gonna be miserable during that run. But like afterwards, I'm gonna feel great. And I feel like a lot of designers don't like recognize that can happen in a game too, because there are like a lot of times when I play a game and I'm like, what the fuck, this is so BS. I hate this enemy. He's the most stupid enemy ever. And then like 30 minutes after, once I've like cooled down and had some time to think about it, I was like, wow, that enemy was super interesting. I need to like strategize about how I can beat him and so on.
There is even like, stepping away from games again for 1 second, like some people argue that like, and maybe it's even backed by science, I'm not sure, that like the chemicals in the brain or whatever, they're trying to like be neutral, like, right? To like, so like if you do stuff that gives you like positive chemicals all the time, you actually get depressed, if that makes sense. And if you like do hard things, you actually get happy, because like the thing that it takes effort actually mitigates the non-effort thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, to a less extreme, this applies to games as well, right? Where it's like, you say, and I mean, there is more things to it than just feeling good and feeling bad, right? It's like you said, this is frustrating. Yeah, it is frustrating, but it's not only that it's fun when you beat it, it also has a bunch of implications on other aspects, like with the unreactable attack, right? It actually affects how that encounter plays out a lot. Not just, how do you say, not just, like the fight, if it's a boss fight, for example, it becomes completely different, because if you don't have anything to think about in terms of like, unreactability, right? Then you can just react, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is like, I like the term parry slop so much, because that's like the big modern in fashion thing, right? Games where you can parry attacks, and like the problem with that, or well, I believe, I don't know, but I believe that this sort of parry focused design, that you see in, for example, Sekiro, is like how do you call it? Like it's sort of developed from this philosophy that everything should be reactable, right? Because it's BS if everything is or something is unreactable. And the problem with that is that then I mean, Sekiro is a pretty decent game, so like, but there are games that do it way worse. They end up like becoming just like, I think you call it Simon Says, right? Probably a lot of people also do. But it's like, okay, so now the enemy is hitting, so now I do the parry, I press the parry button, and then the enemy does a like unparryable attack, so I press the dodge button or whatever, and it's like, there's no like positioning, there's no strategy, there's no tactics, it's just like, do the thing that the game tells you to do when you need to do it, and like the only thing that matters is the timing, and that you press the right button, and like, you lose a lot of interesting like potential gameplay from that, because it's all about parrying. And so like I think if game designers like took a step back, because in the moment it feels good, as we say, it's like well, of course it feels nice to parry the attack, it's like super satisfying, and there's like a big cling sound and the boss staggers or whatever, it's super cool. But like, if you look at the bigger picture, if you look at the whole boss fight, it's like not that interesting actually to just parry him all the time and then like hit him when he's staggered.
Yeah.
So you're losing a bunch of like potential gameplay there. And I think this is also like, so I've been playing Final Fight recently, as I always say, and like even I had this sort of opinion of beat 'em ups before, which is like a very popular opinion, seems like, which is that beat 'em ups are like button mashers. It's like brain dead, you're just spamming until the enemy dies or whatever. And like, I had never like taken a beat 'em up seriously before, so I like played for a few minutes and I like spammed the button. I was like, oh, this is a button masher, whatever, I don't care. But like, then I actually got into Final Fight a little bit, and it's very clear that Final Fight is like one of the most sort of strategic / tactical fighting / action games or whatever, because everything is about crowd control, right?
Yeah.
And I think this, because there's no parries in Final Fight, right? It's like, it's relying a lot on unreactability of attacks, and like the fact that once you're like locked into something, you're locked into it and you can't do anything about it and so on, like you can't regret mistakes. And like, it takes a while to understand that, because you kind of need to understand the game at least a little bit. But like, once you do, you kind of look back at other games and they just seem so boring in comparison, because there's like no fundamentals, there's no nothing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it also, you can clarify things by shaving stuff off, right? As well. Like, in terms of like if we're talking about the mechanics, right? We talk a lot about that games have too many mechanics these days, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, in theory, a game with lots of mechanics could be as deep as something as Final Fight, right? I think.
Yeah.
But that would mean that there's a bunch of pointless mechanics in there, right? Because it's not going to be that deep. So if we go back to the original like topic here, right? The bigger picture, like a big issue with all these mechanics that they add is that they are solutions, right? So it's like you said with Total War, it's split up into these parts and they're trying to solve things. So like, oh, what should the player do in this situation? Oh, what should the player do in this situation, right? And everything needs to have a solution. And what you end up with when you do that is an extremely boring game, I think, because it becomes this. Yeah, I don't know what word to use. Maybe it's like interesting if you don't play games that much, because it's like superficially a little bit interesting, where it's like, oh look, they did the green attack, so I did the green dodge, and now he did the blue attack, so now I did the blue dodge, right? So it's like more advanced, Simon says, right? than Sekiro, which is just, you know, one attack or whatever, right? Whereas with something like Final Fight, it's not like a way I like to describe stuff like this is analog and digital, but people don't seem to agree with that analogy. Which is that what good games do is they create analog gameplay. As in the gameplay is continuous. So like there is nuance there, right? It's not I dodged, I didn't dodge. It's like, well, maybe you have dodged, right? Like you stepped away, but like you kind of didn't step away, so you got hit by something, but maybe not something else, and maybe you know, like there's nuance there, right? Yeah. Like there is not a like binary coded in win-lose condition. It's more like the natural analog flow of the game, right? So that's how I think about it, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, which I think I've talked about this in like a previous episode, like way back, but I use the example of like a lot of modern games, they do like, if they have an armored enemy, then they have an anti-armor attack or an anti-armor weapon or whatever. And like very few games present you with an armored enemy without the solution to the armored enemy. Yeah. It's like, it's always, okay, it's the armored enemy, now I use the anti-armor attack. It's never, oh, it's an armored enemy, holy shit, he's way harder than the others, how should I solve this? Which like, that, of course it doesn't necessarily have to be, but it certainly sounds like it can be more interesting, right? And I feel like a lot of that is lost, and I think that's sort of
I think in general, you said, right? the more granular your mechanics are, the more interesting are they. Like if we take dodging, for example, right? So let's take the popular way and like accepted way to do dodging these days is you have a dodge roll with the iframes. Yeah. But if you like dodging games like I do, the most interesting dodging game is a shoot 'em up game where you just move your character without, you know, any like you know, there's no physics stuff, right? It's just, look, you're here, you move it, right? Move it around. So it's like a precision thing, right? And that's actually way more interesting dodging. Because you can get all the nuance, because it's like, no, you tapped a little to the left, but you should have tapped a little bit more to the left or right, or because it's going to be hard to tap back to the right when the next thing comes, you know, right? And then you have the other things like, you know, you get overwhelmed by more things, right? Because it's because it's continuous, you can be overwhelmed. Like if it's digital, it's like either there is so like you can make the digital system break down, but like for example Dark Souls does this actually. So like the Dark Souls dodge, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Dark Souls dodge is you have stamina, and that is interesting because that limits, like that creates sort of this analog thing, and not completely right, but a little bit, where you can only dodge, like let's say you can dodge or attack 4 times, right? You have to pick, and you have to balance that around the attacks the enemy does, right? It's still not this complete like continuous thing like in a shoot 'em up game or whatever, but it's more interesting, right? And I think that's why that has, especially like the stamina stuff, has really like got popular. But then again, these days we see more and more that people are removing that without changing the mechanics, which makes like super uninteresting combat systems where it's like whatever. Because even Sekiro has the like bar, right? The like parry bar. So like you need to parry well, and like so even there where it's like you don't have stamina, it's still like a thing there. And you also that has like this aggressive thing where you need to stay aggressive because otherwise they recover and stuff. So they've built in, like, if you think about, like, why is Sekiro an interesting game, whereas other Simon Says games is not as interesting. There's, like, a lot of mechanics there that just makes it more interesting because it forces you to play in certain ways, right?
Yeah. Well, in relation to sort of the final thing you said there, I feel like a lot of modern games sort of rely on bars and meters, right?
Yes.
Which is like... So the reason for that is because they have an OP mechanic, or like a mechanic that's like objectively good or whatever you want to call it, that needs to be limited somehow, or otherwise the game would be super uninteresting because you would just spam that all the time. So like they'll have like ultimate bars where you like charge up the ultimate and then you do the ultimate attack, and like it's super interesting or whatever. And like it feels like modern games are moving very much into that and very far away from like doing fundamentally interesting things with like pros and cons or whatever. It's like I think one example of this is like like attacking in 2D side scrollers or whatever. I could even take a good game as an example, right? So Silksong, I like Silksong, I enjoy Silksong, but that game is very unlimited, like not unlimited, but it's like very it's very free, I guess. So it's like you can move around, you can jump, you can hit everywhere all the time, and you can turn around instantly and whatever. And like the problem with that is that so Silksong is a very good game, but the problem with that is that the movement doesn't get very deep. Like the actual controlling of your character isn't very deep. The depth comes from like the bosses and stuff, or the encounters. Whereas if you look at something like Volga the Viking or whatever, which has the fixed jump, our favorite example, it's like what's the point I was going to make? Well, it's interesting because you have to like strategize about your jump, if that makes sense. Now, how that relates to bar, I don't know. I felt like I went on a bit of a tangent there. But anyways, so like going back to bars and meters, it's sort of a crutch to like limit uninteresting design, I guess, is my point.
I think it can work, but I think it is a very how should I say this? So like I think this goes into psychology a bit, right? Where it's like they've sort of figured out that you want these powerful mechanics that you can do from time to time because it gives you like this little kick of, whatever chemical, right, in your brain or something. It's like, oh, now the combat is starting to get boring. Oh, I know I could do the super attack, and then okay, let's go. Oh, no, can't do it, and you keep doing that back over and over. So I think it's actually a bit, from that. Like I don't think it's purely like that they don't like they can't do anything else. I think they actually it works because it's like, tricking the brain or whatever. Yeah, I think you can making these mechanics more like context dependent, right? Is more interesting most of the time, right? Where it's like, oh, I can do this, but I need to be in this certain situation.
Yeah.
And also one more thing is that if it's limited resource, it's actually interesting. It's only if it's a like bar, I think it's less interesting, right? Because if it's a limited resource, then it's like you need to think about when and how to use it, right? That's sort of like a super interesting thing, because a lot of people, when talking about RPGs especially, argue that like, oh, these are like consumable items or whatever are uninteresting because I'm just gonna save them all, right? Forever. But that's, in my mind, that's a skill issue, right? Because
well, the problem there is also that you can save them, like they are too easy.
Yeah, sure.
It's like you have a healing potion, but then you also have a character who heals better than the healing potion.
But I mean, you could argue you don't need to use the super ability. You can just beat them all, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I guess the point there is that it like refreshes.
My point is that I think it's like resource management is an interesting skill. Like if we go to like a more simple genre than an RPG, let's say a shoot 'em up, right? The bombs in a shoot 'em up, depending on how they're implemented, can be interesting, because it's sort of this thing where like it's even more interesting. So in the good, this is my opinion, a lot of people actually disagree with this, which I find really interesting, is the best way to do bombs is you get 3 bombs when you die, right? Like you restock on your bombs, and if you die, you lose your bombs. That's the best way, in my opinion, because that's really interesting, because it creates a lot of tension and frustration. So that's why people hate it. So people will argue, well, no, don't do that system. That system is bad because a lot of old games did it, right? So more modern games usually don't do it in this way. Some do, but a lot of them don't. Where you lose your bombs when you die, basically. Like you get a stock, and then if you die, you lose them. And their argument is, oh, no, that's not fun, right? Back to the argument, like looking in one direction. Like I feel terrible when I lose my bombs, and that's the thing. Yes, that's why it's interesting, because it's this super tense thing where like you need to judge. Like it's a skill to judge when should I use this now or not, right?
Yeah.
So it's like super.
Yeah, because like if you're overzealous, you end up wasting your bomb. But if
you just die and then you lose all your bombs.
Yeah.
So like if you're not good at using, like if you overuse them, you're gonna die because you run out of bombs and lives, right?
Yeah.
But if you underuse them, you're also gonna die because you don't have any lives left. Like you only get like 4 or 5 lives depending on how you score or whatever, right? But if you use your bombs effectively, in theory, you have like 15 lives, right? So it's like super important to get good at that skill in those games. And I think games that use resources like that is super interesting.
Yeah, I because you're the more experienced shmupper of the two of us, right?
Yeah, of the two of us maybe, but man, those shmuppers, they're fucking good, man.
Yeah. But I'm a very like I've tried shmups a bit, and like I think they're good. I just don't think they're my kind of game, really.
Yeah, I think it's a skill issue.
Probably. But like one thing that I notice when I play shmups is that like the bomb thing that you were talking about specifically is like such a sort of source of depth, I guess.
Yes.
Because like I noticed that I bomb to like I go between like never bombing and just constantly dying to like bombing way too much and never having bombs when I actually need it, and like actually finding that middle ground that's perfect. That's like super interesting, and definitely like something I need to get better with in relation to shmups, right?
Yeah, and you
so that's like
that do that, because a lot of the modern ones don't. And an even worse thing that a lot of them do is like auto bomb, where it's like, okay, it's gonna use up your bomb instead of your life, and at that point it's like, okay, just give me 15 lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what? Then we're back to the like total war thing, where it's like you just have this mechanic because someone else had it before and you haven't thought about this at all. Yeah, and I guess since we're on shmups, I want to point one more thing out, which is that some clever designer figured out that you can do these like death bombs they're called, which is it's like coyote jump. Right? So it's like, well, you died, but if you press the bomb button, you survive. Right? And I don't mind that a little bit, right? That if it's like, because like if you think about it, it's like, well, I pressed the button and it was like on the frame, right? But I died, and like I could see that being okay. I don't necessarily hate that, right? But the problem is that people have figured out that is satisfying, right? And some games like you don't even need to use your bombs because you can literally react, right? So it's a parry instead, basically, right? So you're just so ruining the bomb again, right? Because it's like, okay, then it's like, oh, I died, click. Oh, I didn't die, I used the bomb, good. And then like the bomb resource is completely pointless again because you can just you obviously don't want to use it if you can use it as lives, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that goes back very well to like today's topic about looking at the bigger picture, because I don't think that the designers that implement it that way like actually think about the consequences of adding like a reactable death bomb.
No, they're thinking, and this feels good, this is really nice. Yeah, and then like the implications
or like
screwed.
Yeah, or they think like, well, dying with bombs is frustrating, so I'm gonna add the death bomb or whatever.
But they don't like it could be like in the coyote jump sense. I think it could be.
Yeah.
It's like just a more
but like a reactable
bomb. Yeah, reactable.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to add one more thing to what you're saying there, which is like, so I don't. I mean, no one. Maybe people watching or playing shmups. Let us know in the comments. I don't know. I find them very interesting. Maybe some of our viewers do. And that is that you could make a really interesting game about this like death bomb window, right? It's just that you need to think about that, right? Then you need to like, okay, is that the only way to not die? Can you like death bomb all the time? Like you need to, right? You need to build your game around that. You can't just add all these mechanics, because then it's like they're gonna play out very differently, right? And then you need to account for the fact that you have those, right? Like maybe you have less bombs, or maybe you don't have bombs. Maybe it is bombs. Maybe it's like parries, literally, right? It's like resource parries or something, like. And then we're starting to like, you know, make it more clear what the mechanics are about, instead of like, oh, we have this bomb that was invented 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, right? But that's archaic. We don't want to do it that way. So we're gonna add this parry window to it, and then it's like, that's fine if you're like, it's fine to do this parry window thing, but don't make it like this thing where it's both things. And I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like I think you sort of mentioned it already, like earlier, but I want to clarify a bit, like in relation to this death bomb thing, that I feel like a lot of people, when they discuss things like this, they like it comes from a place of like how it feels in the moment. Like dying when you still have bombs feels really, really bad.
Yes.
And like, yes, that is true, but like, look at the bigger picture. If you make it so that you can use your bomb instead of losing your life, then you lose all of that interesting stuff, like all of the interesting consequences of having the bomb from the first place.
Because actually, like an interesting thing. Sorry, ranting about drops today. It's interesting. You get like a tension thing where it's like you're more tense when you have bombs. So let's say you have 3 bombs and then you use them, right? And you're like, okay, I don't have any bombs. Now you're like, you can play more confidently because you don't have any bombs, if that makes sense, right? You're like, I'm gonna dodge now, oof, and like you don't care if you die because you couldn't do anything about it. So you don't need to think about that if you have a bomb, right? And then you die, and now you have bombs, and now you need to think about, should I use them now? And then you accidentally die, and it's like, oh no, my bombs, right? And then all of those feelings, right? That's the important part. Like, there's a ton of different emotions, not just like, oh, this feels bad or good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, in relation to that, I want to take us away from shmups now, if you're fine with that. Maybe you'll be very sad when I do.
Yeah, I will, but I think our viewers will be happy.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think we discussed this in the CS episode a little bit, but I want to like go back to it and talk about it a bit more in depth. And that's like, comeback mechanics, which, well, not only comeback mechanics, I would say in general epic moments. That's what I'm going to call it. And so the problem with a lot of designers is that they look at epic moments and they say, oh, I wanna like emulate that or whatever.
The game
so they
of
look
epic moments.
Exactly. So like if you look at CS, you'll see like an epic 1v4 clutch or an ace or the most epic comeback in the entire history of CS, and they'll be like, wow, I want to design a game like those moments are so epic. I want to design a game that has all of those epic moments just over and over and over again. Like maximized epic moments. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the problem with that, once again, they are looking at like the specific example. They're like, wow, this guy who did a 1v4 clutch, that was so epic. I want to recreate that in my game. The problem with that is that what often ends up happening is that they design the game for these things to happen. And this is why I think comeback mechanics are such a good example, because they're quite common. So if we take a comeback, like a comeback is super interesting. Like in the moment that a comeback is happening, it's like, wow, that's the most amazing epic feeling in the world or whatever. Now the problem when you design a game for comebacks to happen is that the comeback stops being a comeback and it starts being a part of the game.
Yeah.
And so like if there are natural catch-up mechanics, then it suddenly like doesn't feel like you're catching up. It just feels like you're playing the game.
All of a sudden your epic moment is not so epic anymore.
Exactly. It's just a normal moment.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is, as I said, it's like if you look at the bigger picture, it's like, well, actually, we don't want to maximize the epic moments. We actually kind of want to minimize them because then they feel more epic when they happen. And I think this is why CS like is so famous for having epic moments, because like the epic moments are actually super, super rare. Like a 1v4 clutch basically never happens. An ace, very, very rare. Comebacks, yeah, they happen sometimes. But like all of those things are super rare. And like if CS had 100 times like 1v4 clutches, like the amount of 1v4 clutches wouldn't be as interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of designers are missing that, because they just look at the epic moment and they say, wow, that is epic. But the reason that it's epic is because it's epic, right? The player did something epic. They did something that was not supposed to happen. The odds were stacked against them, and they persevered and they beat everyone else. And like if you suddenly start stacking the odds in their favor, then it's not epic anymore because they're just playing the game.
Yes.
Yeah, rant over.
Yeah. On the topic of multiplayer games, there was one thing you wanted to bring up that I think is good to discuss at least, which is the Arc Raiders matchmaking thing, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah, so you go ahead with that, because I think I think that's an interesting example of this.
So Arc Raiders, for those of you that don't know, it's the new and popular in fashion extraction shooter.
My favorite
and so
genre.
Yes. So extraction shooters, if you look at something like Tarkov and so on, they're very famous for being very, very tense games. It's like, because when you meet a new person, you don't know if they're gonna kill you and steal all your shit, or if they're nice and they're gonna help you and you're making a friend for the rest of your life or whatever. And like when you're walking around, you could be ambushed at any moment, and like it's always super, super tense in that way. And I definitely understand like that there's something very interesting there.
Could be.
Now Arc Raiders, yes, exactly, yeah. I think the execution is kind of bad in most cases.
Most of them are very bad, but they,
yes,
in theory they could be good. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing about Arc Raiders is that I think it was like 1 or 2 weeks ago. It was like the CEO of Embark, the studio that makes it. He He like revealed that they had something that they called aggression-based matchmaking.
Yes.
Now, what that means is that if you are a player that often attacks other players and you're often like very aggressive and stuff, you will get put in matches with other players who are very aggressive.
Yeah.
And if you are a very peaceful player, if you're always friendly, if you're always helping people out, then you will be placed in matches with only friendly people. Now, if you take a step back and listen to what I said about extraction shooters, they're very tense because you never know if it's a friend or a foe, or you never know if you're going to get ambushed or not or whatever. Then, if you look at the bigger picture, this sounds completely stupid, right? Because all of a sudden, if they're going to attack you or not. Because if you're an aggressive player, you're just going to be put with aggressive players, and you know that everyone's going to be aggressive, so you just shoot everyone on sight, because like obviously you would. Statistically, everyone is aggressive, but like if you're a peaceful player, then you know that everyone's friendly, so you know I don't need to worry about anything. So you're just walking around the map, looting and taking it easy and whatever. Now, obviously, you know, maybe this aggression-based matchmaking isn't like so dramatic that like literally everyone is aggressive or literally everyone is
like
passive.
Doing
but
weird shit with the matchmaking for years. These big companies, so I wouldn't surprise me if it's very aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's probably is aggressive as you say, but even if it is, it's still like it still shifts the sort of statistic stuff so that you remove all the tension, right? That's the problem. You never have the question, is this guy friendly or not? It's like, okay, I know if he's friendly or not.
Yeah.
Statistically speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything you wanted to say about that?
I just think it's interesting because it shows like something that is so fundamentally different about how I view video games from these big companies. Like it's one of the big, like super big, like super obvious example of it, right? To me, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like it's actually worse than like a lot of, even if it's not extremely, just the like thought process of, oh, how do we like manipulate the matchmaking so people end up having more fun or whatever.
Yeah.
In a very like, I don't know, contrived, or like, I don't know what word to use, but like it's not an unnatural way, right? It doesn't create it's not natural, you know, you know what I mean. It's like trying to artificially change the game to match what you want more. It's sort of like the social media thing, right? With the algorithms, where they're like trying to like make people
that's a very good comparison.
like bundle together. It's doing that thing, and that's fucking disgusting in my opinion. But I don't think most people look at it that way, which is really interesting to me. Like, because it's way worse than like, I mean, maybe not worse than like the gambling stuff, but like, you know, it's pretty high up there in terms of bad like ideas. It's sort of the like,
because gambling is like, gambling is like very openly evil, if you want to call it that. Whereas this is way more like deceptive. It's like, oh, it sounds good if you don't think about it. It's like,
if you don't think about it.
But like, but if you do think about it, it's like super manipulative and like super shitty to do.
It's in the same category as like RNG rigging, right? Where it's like,
absolutely.
Oh, look, the player feels better because his numbers are more correct with what is in his head. It's like, okay, but what about if you don't lie to the player? You fucking asshole.
You've never considered the fact that the player is wrong? But yeah, like, I just want to clarify, by the way, because I realized I didn't clarify this too much while you were talking. It's like the motivation for adding this aggression-based matchmaking, right, is to make the game less frustrating for new players or whatever, right? So
or
it's
like peaceful
or players who want to be peaceful. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, oh yeah, it's super frustrating to like be betrayed and robbed by someone you thought were your friend or whatever. But like, that's literally the point of the game, man. It's literally the point of the game. Why would you remove that? I don't get it.
Yeah, and it goes back to the like clarity thing, because like, okay, let's say someone has the idea. In my opinion, that seems extremely uninteresting, but whatever. People can make games that I find uninteresting. I'm totally cool with that. And they go, you know what, this PvP thing, it's kind of not fun, right? Let's make this game where like people are dropped down on this map and they have to work together. Like it's literally like it's really hard, but they need to work together to solve this. Then it's a different thing, right? Because then it's like very clear, like the game. No, this game, we're supposed to work together and figure this out, right? So then it's immediately more interesting, right? It's this thing where it's like, well, we have this game where you can play in this way or in this way, and if you find this frustrating, we're just gonna manipulate the numbers so it's not frustrating for you, and so also it's not gonna be that interesting for the people that shoot each other either, because they're not. I don't know. I guess it's less of a problem for them because they're just gonna try to shoot people and people are gonna shoot back. But it's, I guess that it skews their perspective in that no one is like moral or nice. Everyone just shoots and they shoot. But you know, it's like it creates this like weird, like if you know, it actually like you said earlier, it's like it's literally like social media, right? Where it's like they're gonna be like, they're in their mind, it's gonna be like everyone is
so mean.
Everyone is so mean and shooting each other in this game because they're doing it, and then everyone else is also doing it.
Yeah.
In their bubble, right? And then the other half is gonna be, everyone is so nice. Yeah. I don't know. It's fucking weird, man. I don't understand modern game designers sometimes.
Nope, me neither. There was actually there is one thing about now that we're on the topic of like AAA design or whatever.
Not quadruple A.
Which is not no, not quadruple A. Only Blood and Bones or whatever it's called is a quadruple A game. Skull and Bones, yeah, sorry. Yeah. But this is not game design, but it is UI design. And I think I've had this rant before on the podcast, I'm not sure, because I have had this rant in real life several times. I have this rant all the time because this triggers me so much.
You just stop on the street and start screaming in front of you about the UIs in games.
Yes, at people,
and everyone looks
I will
at you
walk up to people on the bus. Yeah. No, but like, so the UI in AAA games is dog shit.
Disgusting.
Like, in general.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely crap, garbage, doesn't work, super unclear, way overcomplicated, all the stuff. And like, if you look at old AAA games, that's not the case. Like, let's take Call of Duty as an example. If you start up Call of Duty nowadays, you'll be met by like 3, like, what are they called, like carousels that like spin ads and stuff, and then to find the options menu you need to like go into the corner, then there's a tiny button and then you click there, and like apparently you switch to the campaign through the options menu. So now there's the switch campaign button, which I was looking for, and everything is just overcomplicated and stupid, and like, I want to change the attachments on my gun, and it's like, now it brings up the 3D model and I need to like carefully press on the 3D model because they couldn't like make a list or whatever. Anyways, if you compare that to like old Call of Duty, it's like you open the game and you have single player, multiplayer, options, quit. And then you press multiplayer, and then you press loadout, and like, there's loadout 1, I press that. Okay, I have this weapon, I have this attachment, boom. Very easy, all lists, simple lists. And
there is a little bit of, I'm not gonna defend Call of Duty's UI, by the way, but just the like, attaching attachments to the weapon, like it's sort of a little bit interesting, because it's like the thing we talked about, story, right? Where it's like, it's tied to the like, it's making the connections more. Like, if you can make it feel less like, if you can make UIs feel less gamey, it's good. But they obviously need to be responsive still. That's the problem, and they can't be confusing. I mean, in some cases they can be actually, but I wouldn't say a multiplayer main menu should be confusing.
But yes, so going back to what I was saying. So the reason for this, my theory, whatever you want to call it, is that if you look at old Call of Duties, like Call of Duty 4 or whatever, it was like Steve, the everything programmer. He did a bit of gameplay, he did a bit of audio, he did a bit of graphics. He was assigned to the main menu like a week before the game released, because someone needed to do the main menu. And so he did the main menu as fast as he could, and then it was super simple and super easy and super great. Nowadays, you have like a team of 100 UI designers and 50 UI programmers and like 20 UX designers who work together with the UI designers and 50 artists.
Can I say something about the UX designers? Yes. I find it interesting that out of all people, UX designers has to be the worst people in the universe at user experience.
True,
right?
Very good point.
I don't understand how I don't understand how that works. Like, how could you hire someone for doing, like, making the experience nice, and it's always the worst the worst person? Yeah,
the worst person for the job.
Yeah, for the job. Yeah, I don't know how that works. Like, in the other cases, it's like, well, they know kind of the stuff. Like, you hire a UI programmer. Maybe they kind of know how to program UI. Maybe not well, but
Yeah.
But UX, it's like, no, it's literally better to hire the janitor to do it. And
yes, absolutely.
No offense to the janitor.
Exactly. You are smart. You're good at UX.
Yeah.
But yeah, so AAA studios, they have this big team of like several hundred people only dedicated to making the UI. And so what do? Well, obviously they're like spending 8 years on this game, so they're gonna spend 8 years making the most epic UI ever.
Yeah.
And that, like, it's super complicated and it's super in depth and there's so many buttons to press, and like, I feel like the reason this is sort of related to the subject is that there's no one on the UI team who like steps back and looks at the bigger picture, because their job is literally to be ultra focused on the UI.
Yeah.
Because if someone stepped back and looked at the bigger picture and said, wow, this UI is super confusing and bad, then, you know, they would all be out of jobs, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't need 200 people to make a game UI.
Yeah. I have to point something out that there's really interesting.
Yeah.
That maybe you were gonna bring it up, but I'm gonna steal it from you anyways, because it's like super interesting. So specifically with UIs, I have heard people talk about like, oh, we designed it this way, but then we designed it this way, and people clicked more when we did it this way, and then they keep this version. And that's a perfect example of what we're talking about today, because it's like they're looking like this with a like. What do you call them?
Magnifying glass.
Magnifying glass, right? At like, oh yes, they click more better. But if they took one step back, literally one step back, they realize you don't want people to click a lot in your UI. That's bad. It means it's confusing.
You want the opposite.
It's literally a bad UI if you have to click a lot. But they have these statistics that say that, well, they click more in this one, so they have better retention or something, right? People stay longer in the UI. Yeah, that's not good, my friend.
Yeah. That's the UX designers talking.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Yeah. But anyways, that's sort of like, I guess the point I wanted to make is like, extract this into like, from UI into everything in the game. Because like, modern AAA studios, they are very like segregated is probably the wrong word, but like
they're
people are very specialized. Yeah, exactly. There's no overlap between the teams or whatever. Like some probably have, but like most studios are very like, this is the AI programmer, and this is the weapon programmer, and this is the whatever programmer, and like there's no like general gameplay programmer even. It's like specialized in the gameplay. And so what ends up happening is that everyone is like laser focused on their task, and they never like step back to look at what everyone else is doing, because then they lose their job, because you don't need to be that specialized. It's like,
I don't think that is true though, because I think if they actually did step back, they would do a better job, so they would get promoted in their specialized role, because they understand more things, right? But that's not the viewpoint people have. The viewpoint is that specialized knowledge is good, which I disagree with. I think general knowledge is way better, and you see that especially with like indie games, for example, where you have a smaller team working for longer on the same thing. They're obviously gonna make a more coherent thing, because they have more of the like design or systems or whatever in their head, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting if you look at it that way. Like, some of the best games are games where like, there's like one or two people, and they did all the art, all the music, all the coding, all the everything, like all on their own, and like,
it obviously takes longer.
It's just very, but it's a better product because everyone is involved in everything. Now, obviously, I'm not saying you can't make a good game unless everyone is involved in everything, right? So like, you could have a team where it's like, okay, you have a programmer and you have a designer or an artist. And
no, but I do think it like them being more generalist does affect it, right? Like I think that let's say you have an audio programmer, a graphics programmer, and a gameplay programmer. And like the more the others know about the others' disciplines, the more efficiently and like the better. Like there will be less bugs even, right? Because there's not gonna be no confusion. Like the graphics guy is gonna talk about some matrix stuff, and the gameplay programmer is gonna be like, yeah, I get that, I know some graphics, right? And the gameplay programmer is gonna be like, yeah, I wanted to do this weird audio thing, right? He's going to use audio terms with the audio guy, and the audio guy's going to be like, I get what you mean, right? Because otherwise you need people in between to like translate. But it's not even just a translation. It's what you said before as well, right? Where it's like they will make space because their mind is more broad or whatever. They will put in the necessary work. I mean, like for programming, like for example, they will put in like they will know stuff about the other disciplines, which will help them build a system that is more what do you say? Like it works more with what they're doing, right? It's like not basically the bigger picture thing again. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. We're already running out of time, kind of.
We have infinite time.
There was, yes, we do.
Well, no, I guess
there was
we'll die eventually, but
yes, true.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of time, relatively speaking.
Yes.
We're looking at the bigger picture. No,
yes.
So like, there was one thing I wanted to maybe not rant about because it's not that deep, but mention because I want to throw some shade at actually good games, and in specific difficult games. Now, I mentioned previously that I'm a bit of a beginner schmupper, right? And so I've been playing a tiny bit of Emerald Blue recently, after hearing some good things about that game. Now, the problem I have with Emerald Blue is that when you die in Emerald Blue, you get sent to the score menu, and then it says like press whatever button to restart. I think it's start. And what happens when you press start is that the game literally restarts. It shows you a loading screen. Then it boots you into like the splash screen menu thing. And then you have to press start, I think it is, again. And then you have to select which mode you want to play again. Then you have to select the ship you want to use because it's a shmup.
Yeah, can I say something about that?
You have
like I that has bothered me for so long. That thing that you pick your ship like after you start the game. Why can't you just have an option in the menu to pick a ship? Like I'm gonna play this game many times. I don't want to pick the ship every time. I don't, and all of them do it. It's so funny. Yeah, sorry, continue.
Yeah, or you could even do like you pick the ship and then when you die you just keep that ship forever. You don't go back to the ship picking menu every time.
Yeah, but I mean you want some option. You want to be able to change somehow, right?
Yeah. But anyways, and then once you've actually picked your ship, which by the way you do with a different button. I've ranted about this before. It's like you press start, then you press like attack after you've changed your ship, and then it like plays a cutscene where like the ship smashes through some glass, and then the game starts. And so it takes like 5 to 10 seconds to restart the game every time you die.
Wasn't it in practice mode as well? All of this?
Yes, practice mode as well.
Yeah, so
yes. Even
nice
if you go to practice mode, you need to go into the options menu and pick practice as well. So it's an extra step. Now,
maybe they needed a UX design.
The problem with this is that I die a lot in Emerald Blue. A lot. Like, probably every few seconds if I'm doing a bad run. If I'm doing a good run, maybe a few minutes. And like waiting 5 to 10 seconds every time you die becomes quite boring quite fast. And it feels like a lot of difficult games get this wrong. And I just want to shout out Devil Daggers here, which is a fantastic game, because Devil Daggers, when you die, you literally press the restart button, which I think is R, or I think maybe you could even like press the attack button after you've died or something, and the game just literally, boom, restarts. And I feel like this, once again, relevant to the topic here, this is a problem of like not looking at the bigger picture, because if someone looked at the bigger picture, they would see like, oh, holy crap, our like restart after death section is 5 to 10 seconds long, and the player is gonna die like 3,000 times on average
practice,
or whatever.
Right? Where it's like you
exactly,
might be practicing a tiny section like over and over again, right?
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if like I had like spent half an hour to an hour, waiting for the like restart after I finished Emerald Blue, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's quite a considerable amount of time. And like, just taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, would make someone realize that, yeah, we should probably do like Devil Daggers. Press R and then you're instantly back in the game.
Yeah, Super Hexagon is also a super good example of that.
Yes, very good.
It's like, again, with the big picture, the game takes 1 minute. It can't have this long game over. It's literally a voice going game over, and then you don't even have to wait for it. You can just start again.
Yeah. It's like the instant you like crash into something, it's like you press and then you're back in. So like when you play that game, you get like ingrained into your game over, begin, game over, begin, because it's so fast, because you just spam restart when you die. Very good.
And like again, with the context, right? A lot of people will restart the music in that case, but Super Hexagon, he realized, I'm gonna do this over and over again. I might as well just pause the music, and then it can continue from where you died, which is super smart, right? Yeah. Because then it's like almost become like a natural flow of the game to just keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say you mentioned splash screens, which I find really interesting, right? Because I talked to you about that before. Like almost all console games have splash screens, right? The screen before where you press start, and like they never do anything. These screens, it's literally just the game's logo.
Yeah,
you click, right? It makes a sound, and you wait like 5 seconds, and then you get into the menu. And like if you think about how much, like probably years of time has been wasted, like people's lives like have been wasted pressing the start button for no fucking reason. Probably like because the like we talked about this before, that it's probably a legacy of the arcade era, right? Where you needed that screen to put, like you needed some screen where you put in a coin, right? But you don't need that in a console game. But then people are just like, well, games have this. Okay, but again, why? Please, my time. It's not unlimited. Like we mentioned earlier, we have a lot of time, but we're not unlimited time. We could make more episodes of Game Design Archive if we removed splash screens from video games.
True. I think that's a good note to end it. Don't you agree?
Sure.
Throwing some shade on good games so that our haters will be happy.
Yes.
Because they don't like when we praise good games.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Leave a like if you agree. Leave a dislike if you disagree.
Comments.
Or do the opposite if you feel like doing it. Leave a comment. We want to hear your thoughts.
As usual, if you have any ideas.
Topics, yes.
Or
feedback. Let us know.
Like and subscribe, you said that. But yes, do it again. Do it twice.
Don't ring the bell.
I don't know what the bell does. We have already talked about this.
We already discussed this one.
Yes, ignore the bell. Just click subscribe. It works. I don't know why people talk about it not working. It always works for me. So I don't know.
Yes, It's just a scam to make you subscribe.
Yeah,
we won't scam you.
No.
We will just produce quality content for you to see.
Yeah.
So goodbye everyone.
Bye.